Good morning, You Can Heal family. Reading to you before my kids get here today. To be honest with you guys, I'm feeling a little blah. So keep me in prayer. Don't know what that's about. Maybe I do. But we're going to start in Judges today, chapter 17. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning. It says here, example of personal idolatry. A man named Micah lived in the hill country of Ephraim. One day he said to his mother, "I heard you curse the thief who stole 1,100 pieces of silver from you. Well, here they are. I was the one who took them." "The Lord bless you for admitting it," his mother replied. He returned the money to her, and she said, "I now dedicate these silver coins to the Lord. In honor of my son, I will have an image carved and an idol cast." So his mother took 200 of the silver coins to a silversmith, who made them into an image and an idol, and these were placed in Micah's house. Oh, yikes. Micah set up a shrine, and he made a sacred ephod and some household idols. Then he installed one of his sons as the priest. In those days, Israel had no king, so the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. One day, a young Levite from Bethlehem in Judah arrived in that area of Ephraim, looking for a good place to live. He happened to stop at Micah's house as he was traveling through. "Where are you from?" Micah asked him. And he replied, "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I'm looking for a place to live." "Stay here with me," Micah said, "and you can be a father and priest to me. I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year, plus a change of clothes and your food." The Levite agreed to this and became like one of Micah's sons. Micah ordained the Levite as his personal priest, and he lived in Micah's house. "I know the Lord will bless me now," Micah said, "because I have a Levite serving as my priest." Oh, okay, so now Micah's bringing in the Israelite, and he's been dealing with all these idols. That doesn't sound like the Levite made a good choice here. Yeah, the commentary for 7 through 13 says, an illustration of the corruption of the Levites, that a true Levite could set up worship somewhere other than the tabernacle, and furthermore serve an idol, is unthinkable. That's what I was just thinking. We've got to be careful who we hunker down with, right? Who we choose to live with. Please be very careful. Be very careful, because it might all sound good. You get 10, what is it? You get this shekels of silver, you get food, you get clothes, 10 pieces of silver a year. It sounds so good, but God's got something better. So let's look at chapter 18. It says, example of tribal idolatry. Now in those days, Israel had no king, and the tribe of Dan was trying to find a place to settle, for they had not yet driven out the people who lived in the land assigned to them. So the men of Dan chose 5 warriors from among their clans who lived in the towns of Zorah and Eshtaol to scout out the land for them to settle in. When these warriors arrived in the hill country of Ephraim, they came to Micah's home and spent the night there. Noticing the young Levite's accent, they took him aside and asked him, "Who brought you here, and what are you doing? Why are you here?" He told them about his agreement with Micah and that he was Micah's personal priest. Then they said, "Ask God whether or not our journey will be successful." "Go in peace," the priest replied, "for the Lord will go ahead of you on your journey." So the 5 men went on to the town of Laish, where they noticed the people living carefree. Like the Sidonians, they were peaceful and secure. The people were also wealthy because their land was very fertile, and they lived a great distance from Sidon and had no allies nearby. When the men returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their relative asked them, "What did you find?" The men replied, "Let's attack. We have seen the land, and it's very good. You should not hesitate to go and take possession of it." To go and take possession of it. Okay. I just read there. When you get there, you will find the people living carefree lives. God has given us a spacious and fertile land, lacking in nothing. So 600 warriors from the tribe of Dan set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. They camped at a place west of Kiriath Jearim in Judah, which is called Mahane Dan to this day. Then they went up into the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. The 5 men who had scouted out the land around Laish said to the others, "There is a shrine here with a sacred ephod, some household idols, a carved image, and a cast idol. It's obvious what we ought to do." So the 5 men went over to Micah's house, where the young Levite lived, and greeted him kindly. As the 600 warriors from the tribe of Dan stood just outside the gate, the 5 spies entered the shrine and took the carved image, the sacred ephod, and the household idols, and the cast idol. Verse 18. When the priest saw the men carrying all the sacred objects out of Micah's shrine, he said, "What are you doing?" "Be quiet and come with us," they said. "Be a father and priest to all of us. And isn't it better to be a priest for an entire tribe of Israel than just for the household of one man?" The young priest was quite happy to go with them, so he took all the sacred ephod, the household items, and the carved image. They started on their way again, placing their children, livestock, and possessions in front of them. When the people from the tribe of Dan were quite a distance from Micah's home, Micah and some of his neighbors came chasing after them. They were shouting as they caught up with them. The men of Dan turned around and said, "What do you want? Why have you called these men together and chased after us like this?" "What do you mean, what do I want?" Micah replied. "You've taken away all my gods and my priests, and I have nothing left." The men of Dan said, "Watch what you say. Some of us are short-tempered, and they might get angry and kill you and your family." So the men of Dan went on their way. When Micah saw that there were too many of them for him to attack, he turned around and went home. Look at that sun ray. Isn't that pretty? All right. Verse 27. Then, when Micah's idols and his priests, the men of Dan, came to the town of Laish, whose people were peaceful and secure, they attacked and killed all the people and burned the town to the ground. There was no one to rescue the residents of the town, for they lived a great distance from Sidon and had no allies nearby. This happened in the valley near Beth Rehob. Then the people of the tribe of Dan rebuilt the town and lived there. They renamed the town Dan after their ancestor, Israel's son, but it had originally been called Laish. When they set up the carved image and they appointed Jonathan, son of Gershom, a descendant of Moses, as their priest, this family continued as priest for the tribe of Dan until the exile. So Micah's carved image was worshipped by the tribe of Dan as long as the tabernacle of God remained in Shiloh. Well, that's interesting. The tabernacle of God at Shiloh. See the city of Shiloh. There's a note here. It is sad to recall that Jonathan the idolater was a descendant of Moses. Later scribes altered the Hebrew text to read Manasseh rather than Moses. Oh, that's interesting. It seems like, these Israelites are getting caught up in idolatry here. Let's read this little section. It says the city of Shiloh. And then there's a picture. It looks like a little boy kneeling by the bedside. It says, when the Lord called to Samuel, the boy mistook his call for that of his master Eli, whom he awakened. Okay, now I wonder why they put this here. Let's read this. Shiloh was a small Old Testament village about 20 miles north of Jerusalem. It was important because it served as the religious center for the Hebrew people during the period of the Judges before the kingdom was united under the leadership of David. Numerous references are made of Shiloh during this period as the city where the tabernacle of God was located. These references are probably to the tabernacle with its Ark of the Covenant, or perhaps a permanent building that housed the tabernacle, because the temple was not constructed until 1960 BC during Solomon's time. Hannah prayed for a son at Shiloh. God granted this request by sending Samuel. During his boyhood, Samuel worked with the high priest Eli at Shiloh. One of the most beautiful stories of the Old Testament is about Samuel's response to the voice of the Lord. Thinking his master Eli was calling him, he awakened the high priest to find out what the high priest wanted. Finally, it dawned on both that God was calling Samuel in a unique revelation of his will for the boy. Samuel's response to God's next call was, "Yes, Lord, your servant is listening." And that's in 1 Samuel 3, chapters 1 through 10. Samuel eventually succeeded Eli. The tabernacle was located in Shiloh during Samuel's early years as priest. However, during a battle with the Philistines, the Ark of the Covenant was captured by Israel's enemies because God had forsaken Shiloh as the center of worship. When the Ark was returned to Israel by the Philistines, it was not placed at Shiloh. It was lodged instead at Kiriath Jearim. After the Ark was moved to another city, Shiloh gradually lost its importance. This loss was made complete when Jerusalem was established as capital of the kingdom in David's time. In the days of the prophet Jeremiah, Shiloh was in ruin. It became an inhabited town again in the days of the Greeks and Romans, several centuries later. So I guess they're telling us that because chapters 18 took place there in Shiloh, perhaps. I tell you, sometimes the Old Testament has a lot going on. And you guys, I don't understand everything I read in the Bible, and that's why a lot of people don't read the Bible, because sometimes it just doesn't make sense. But we know God makes sense, and every story, every chapter is there for a reason. He put it there, so we're thankful for that. We really are. And just sometimes it's you guys, honestly, I just want to keep to myself and not read on this channel, and that's just how I'm feeling today. But I'm glad I did, to push through. And the lesson I took out of it is just be careful who you invite in your home. If you're a single person, single lady, if most of us watch Tony's videos, Tony Gaskin, and if you're in that dating stage, just be careful who you bring to your house. That's standing out to me. I know that in my younger years I wasn't, and nothing good comes from that. So just use God's wisdom and have the mind of Christ today. Okay, have the mind of Christ today, and just desire to walk according to his will. So that's all I've got for you. It's so beautiful out here. It's a really pretty morning, and I thank God for that. I thank him that I have a place to live. I'm thankful that my children are healthy. My grandson is doing so good with his little heart condition. The doctors say it's all taken care of, so I thank God for that. And thankful that my daughter's graduating. Bren's really excited today, you guys. Dolly has her first private ballet lesson this morning, so we've got to leave here in about 15 minutes for that. I got my will situated. I'm going to go sign that this morning. I went on Monday, but they were closed. So if you want to know, I'm letting you know what's going on today. And you guys know that the ex is coming in town. I think that's why I have this cast over me, but I've prayed, and I've got boundaries and God's protection, so I'm thankful for that. So hopefully have a good end of the rest of the week and weekend, and just trusting him with my life and for all things. And I hope that you do that too. So that's all I've got. I love each of you so much. Just keep going and keep pursuing God's plan for your life. And if you don't know what that is, stay in the Word and it will be revealed to you. All right? Always remember that true healing begins with self-love. Why? Because God is love and He lives on the inside of you. Enjoy this beautiful day. Bye.